Welcome to episode 270 of The Center Ring, presented by Alt. And this is going to be the best episode ever. We are going to do a little wellness check on our good pal Counter-Strike. It's been a rough last couple of months. Let's be honest. So we're just going to check the pulse, see how they're doing, make sure everything's okay. And we have our first impressions of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, as the multiplayer reveal was earlier today. So we will talk about what we like, maybe what we don't like, what we're worried about, and all that. And of course, a slate of e-news to get to. But let me tell you about Alt, because they are the best, the most perfect esports apparel company. I saw someone on Twitter the other day ask, hey, does anyone know a comfortable hoodie? Like, what's the best hoodie you've ever had? I was like, well, funny you should ask, because it's getting cooler outside, folks. The temperatures are dipping just a little bit. And here in Dallas, it doesn't take much to make it hoodie season. If you're in Colorado, you never know. Like, it seems like it's like a day-to-day thing that changes for you. So you can go to altesports.com right now. Pick yourself up a 101 Burglars hoodie brought to you by us. That is part of our line with them. More soon to come with that. You can also, I mentioned last episode, the 90s collection for the Overwatch League, which is smack dab on their homepage. If you go to altesports.com, you can't miss it. Sold out right now, but they did tweet out, and I have from inside sources deep within the walls of Alt, that they are releasing more. So you can sign up to be notified to get more of that fire merch. Personally, I like the purple. The purple is my favorite. And they're also, this Friday, they are releasing team style 90s. I have seen a few of these. You can also see little teasers on their Twitter account at Ultimate. Look, all I got to say is, you really don't... You don't have to be a fan of Overwatch or the Overwatch League to like this merch. You will look fresh. You will look clean. You will come out of quarantine as a new person, and people are like, damn, like, I gained 50 pounds during Corona. How do you look so damn good? And you're going to tell them, I went to altesports.com thanks to the Center Ring.
Hi, it's Guardian from Navi, and you are listening to TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome. Welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast presented by Alt. Yes, this is episode 270, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, ooh, look at this, Anuj. September 9th, 2020. The time, 9 p.m. 999. What does that mean?
It means we're late.
Well, we were on time last episode, so, you know, also priorities, which we'll get to in a second. This is episode 270. Go check us out on Twitter at The Center Ring if you're not doing so already, and you can get all the latest show news, know when we will be late and or early, and join our Discord with the description from there. Our website, tcr.gg, currently down at the moment. We are revamping it for a new day, for a new age.
Rebranding?
Not rebranding. We will always be The Center Ring until we get paid otherwise. And we'll pull a Dignitas and just throw a sponsor's name in there. If you pay us enough, I'll call the podcast whatever you want. And you can do it there. So that's all at The Center Ring on Twitter and all that fun stuff. My name is Tim. Hello, I'll be your captain for this journey into esports, and alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend, my friend who has relatives that can no longer play PUBG Mobile. Or can't they? It's Anuj. What's up?
You know, a famous Bollywood actor is remaking a version of PUBG to like get out very soon to the country to like help them in this crisis moment that they're in.
Yeah, look, some people start a food bank to help people in need. Some people start a bootleg PUBG Mobile. It's, I don't judge.
He's taking one for the team.
I
Had a
don't-
good day today, Tim.
I don't judge. Hey, look, anytime the weather breaks in Texas is a good day. Anytime, like, you look at the 10-day forecast and it doesn't say we're supposed to be, like, in the 100s, it's a good day. Things are... Tonight, anyways, today was kind of still humid, but tonight is hoodie weather. Hoodie season has hit Texas for tonight, if anything.
We might be able to crack the windows by the end of the week.
I'm looking forward to it. Just get me at night to where we have these late night Valorant gaming sessions and I'm super sweaty. I can crack that window and just help some
That's like an
airflow.
automatic KD boost.
I mean, it really is. It really is. It's, for me, the less I can feel my fingers, the better. That's what I always say. No, it's a good day. We are starting the show a little late, so if you're tuning in live, apologies. We did have some priorities take precedent. And look, esports is our number one jam. Everyone knows this. But we're also red-blooded Americans. And that means once come the fall, once come hoodie seasons, once come your ultimate 101 burglar hoodie season, presented by Alt Esports, comes football. And Anuj, you had your fantasy draft. I had mine over the weekend, but you had your fantasy draft tonight. How'd it
We
go?
really waited till the last minute. Like, season kicks off tomorrow.
That is ballsy. Now, was that intentional or is that just
Look, so I've been the commissioner of our work league for like 7-8 years now.
the worst,
And
by the way?
terrible job. I still have 4 people that owe me money at this point.
Oh, look,
horrendous
I've
job.
gotten money from, I'm in a 10-man league and I've gotten money from 2 people, which is pretty good for my league.
Yeah, I'm in a 12, and I've gotten it from 8, I guess 9, counting me. I haven't paid myself yet, so still got a little bit to go there. But it was good. The draft was good. You kind of always just enjoy it. I didn't do a ton of homework this year. Like, it felt a little off from years past. The reason we waited is we were kind of unsure if we were like, are we doing this year? Like, how many people are going to be out from COVID mid-season? And it's going to make it like just a lot more messy, a little bit more random, but we'll see. I mean, once you start doing it, it's always fun.
My only research for fantasy football this year, and you're absolutely right. Like, normally I'm buying like a magazine or 2. I'm looking for sleeper picks. I'm doing a lot, just because it's part of the fun of it, right? Is to do your homework on it. All I did this year was, before my draft, I Googled NFL players opting out for COVID, and I just made sure none of the big boys opted out. Thank God it was no one truly that important for fantasy football that opted out, but I did. That was the only thing I looked at, because that train is rolling. As of right now, football is happening.
I did get Odell in the 3rd round, and I started thinking, like, wait, is he getting suspended for being shitted on? Like, is that a suspendable offense?
We
Like,
don't
if you're
kink
allowed-
shame on this podcast, sir. We don't kink shame. I'll never judge another man's for his kink. Weird.
Beyond weird. That's not even weird. That's next level, like, God, that's horrendous to think about.
I can only imagine some of the weird things esports people are into. We're already weird enough just being isolated for so long, and now we're becoming public. Look, dude, I've known some weird people. I remember MLG, the first MLG I ever went to, I roomed with one of the referees there, because it was, we bummed off of his room, which we definitely were not supposed to, because it was paid by MLG. So we were definitely not supposed to be sleeping in his room for free, but we did anyways. And that dude was weird. Like, and it was one of those where, like, you always played Halo with him online, and he wasn't, like, that weird.
It
And
was
then-
online playing.
Yeah, and then you meet him in person, and you're like, oh my. Oh, like, I've met some of my best friends ever online, right? Like, a man who was, in my wedding, I met online playing Halo. That's not always the case.
slept with one eye open that night.
Sometimes you meet someone online, and then you're like, okay, well, deleting you off my friends list and ghosting you Thank you very much. But he did give me a free room and free Red Bull from MLG. So
I mean that's kind of a sign of a good dude.
yeah,
Good,
I mean,
good
look,
dude.
a good dude.
Just
A
weird.
good dude doesn't make you ultimately not a weird guy.
Did you shit on his chest in the middle of the night?
I did not. I did not
Not
do
that
an
weird,
Odell
then.
Beckham for him.
He is not that weird. Then.
Not that weird. But a good dude nonetheless. I always wondered what happened to him because he was what I would say not long for this world with how he lived. But back to fantasy football. I commend you because I am also a commissioner of my fantasy league, and I've been doing it probably 10 years now, 10, 12 years. It's been a long, I mean, the core group of this league has been together for a very long time, which is another reason why they don't pay me until like the playoffs, because I just feel like they think they can. And it's like, what am I going to do about it? Like, ultimately, I can't do anything about it. But I feel like if I wanted to apply for any CEO position in the world, whether it be like Apple or anything, all I have to do is put on their fantasy football commissioner. And I
has
should
a
get an
whole lot of
interview.
ground.
Like, I should get an interview because of that.
You've been able to handle every stressful situation there is.
It's,
Even from the scoring system before the league starts, who to invite when you're replacing people. You know, like it's not an easy job.
people will always bitch like week 3 where they're like, well, why didn't I get as many points for this? Bro, the scoring system has been in place now for like a month. You could have looked way before this and complained if you didn't like something that I did, or if touchdowns are worth too much or too little, and a rushing touchdown is worth this. Like, I mean, it is real. You are handling grown ass children as a commissioner.
You are.
It's
For like minuscule amounts of money most of the time is the funny thing. It's not like we're talking hundreds of
no.
thousands.
We're in a
dollars here.
$50 league of 10
Yeah.
people, so second place gets your money back, and then first place gets $450. It's not like
Yeah.
we're changing lives here. Like it's not that, it's just fun. But man, it is. I know ESL used to do fantasy Counter-Strike, and I always had listeners want to do it, like a show fantasy. And I always was like, if you set it up, I will do it. But I am having no responsibility with setting it
I
up.
just want to be a member of this.
I just
thing.
want to be I want to be a bystander and enjoy it, because there are times where it's like I dread getting the NFL fantasy season started up because I just know. And it makes no, like, I email these guys all off season. Hey, we're going to do it, right? You're in, right? Oh yeah. We're in. Yeah, no problem. And then the day before the draft, all right, guys, draft is tomorrow. Hey man, Tim, I can't do it this year.
too many leagues.
3 people did that to me this year.
Yeah.
3 people.
I never get the invite again.
The night before the draft, 3 people tell me I can't do it, man. I'm sorry. What? Like, you had all off season.
Could have decommitted at any point.
It's rough. It's the life of a fantasy commissioner. I don't wish it on anyone.
You know, I did buy my first sports game in 5 years probably the other day.
Is that
PGA.
PGA? I see a lot of people. Your best
I've
best
been
friend
watching
Nate
it on
Shot plays
stream
it.
and brought back like some good vibes. You know,
Why
of,
don't you
like,
stream
something
it?
that
Stream it next time.
Yeah, actually, I should. It's I suck is the problem. I used to be so good at this game. I feel because you used to be able to do ball spins easier. Now it's a little bit more technical, and I'm like, dude, some of you guys online are pretty crazy. I have some work to do, but it's fun. It's like a nice, enjoyable, like relaxing game.
Yeah, I have a golf game. It's not that though. It's like one of the golf tour. I don't know. It's a golf.
Yeah.
It was on sale, and no, golf games have definitely advanced. I was used to just the power bar where you hit it once, then hit it again, and it swung it. No,
Yeah, a
no.
little bit more technical than it used to be.
Sports games are a weird thing. Like, you want to support them, but they're all notoriously pretty shitty. Like, apart from PGA, and which that's not always been the case, right? Like, Tiger Woods have had some bad ones. And MLB the show.
NHL is pretty good. It has
From
some
a
good.
casual standpoint, yes. From a competitive esports standpoint,
Oh yeah,
it is a joke. Like,
Yeah.
you almost feel bad because, like, their official league is ran by the NHL, like, partnered with them at least. And so it's like the NHL like talks about like oh, check it out, like before the playoffs they were promoting the ENHL or whatever they call it for their esports. Dude, me and former host of the show Brett RIP play NHL, and every time, and I don't get it, I probably get it like once every 5 years, like you said, because it's the same shit every year. It's like you can get to a point online where it is a lot of fun because you're playing actual hockey, and then you get to the people who just use and abuse the AI and the glitches and the bugs, and it's just like
you see that in like FIFA, it's Madden, obviously.
same thing.
The big one.
You get to that certain level of ranked play where you're like, okay, we're not playing hockey anymore.
I would only buy these games again on the next like generational leap. Like something really has to change for me to want to buy several sports games in a year.
I am only buying them when it comes to PC at this point. And that's why like the EA Pass is brilliant, because I don't have to commit myself to Madden purchase. I can spend $60 for the year, play my 1 week of Madden before I realize, oh yes, this one sucks too, and then move on in life and play a different game.
I got you.
That's my life with sports games. And I don't know anyone, like I've never talked to anyone in like the last, I would say 5, probably even longer years that are like, man, I just love Madden. It's such a clean game. It's so good. Everything's great about it. I mean, little bugs. No, everyone's like, Madden fucking sucks. Like, I don't know why I play it every year. This sucks.
It's been the same thing for a long time now.
Yeah. It's been rough. It has been rough. You know what's also been rough though this year, Anuj? That's Counter-Strike. I feel like the year 2020, really the entire calendar year, has been a rough go for our baby boy Counter-Strike. I feel like we have had very little positive stories to talk about with Counter-Strike. So I figured normally we do this, 2 or 3 times a year, the state of CS, where we kind of let everyone know, hey, this is what's been going on. This is an update for everything. I didn't feel like that was really the proper way to do it. I feel like we need to do a wellness check right now. Like CS needs to go see a doctor and get a checkup because it's been rough.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously COVID's been rough on everybody, but CS, one of the most appealing factors is the rivalries between countries, NA, EU, Brazil. Like that's kind of creates a storyline within itself. Like that, it's just so big. It's not like League of Legends where the leagues are really 100% split up and then they only meet each other at these really big events throughout the year. For Counter-Strike, like they're consistent rivalries. You can have NA-EU rivalries on the reg, like it happened at every event for the most part. And so it from that standpoint, it's affected it more than other games. But then you just have the consistent like storyline after storyline after storyline that we'll get into that have really just hurt. Like emotionally, I'm feeling it, like I'm feeling emotional about this game because there's so much going on and you want Counter-Strike to remain at the top if you've been a fan for Counter-Strike as long as we have. And you see little kinks in the armor, right? That we hadn't really seen before. There really hasn't been much competition, not only within the genre, but in esports as a whole. Very few games can stand up to that bar. And you're starting to feel that slip a little bit. It's not gone, obviously. It's not even like really lowered itself from where it's at, but you're seeing, chinks in the armor that you feel like, hey, if we don't fix some of this soon, we could have a bigger problem long term.
Has anything that we are about to talk about affected your viewing mentality?
Just one, and that would be the first thing I want to bring up is the most recent coaches cheating scandal. When you're in an online era, and although I always told myself like people find a way to take advantage of the system, right? I was thinking more along the lines of like people had Twitch streams up and they were like getting information that way, and that's like stuff that's really hard to control and monitor. But like, what can you do if you're Valve in that instance? Like, there's not a whole lot. These people are playing from homes or offsite facilities. Like, you can only do so much. So I don't blame them in that instance. With the coaches cheating scandal, it really hurt the integrity of the game. Like, there's just so many people involved, and I feel like we're just getting to the start of these scandals between the coaching cheating and the MDL, match fixing stuff that we're about to hear more about. We don't know enough yet, but we'll hear more about. This affects the game. Like this becomes a problem because now you're going to see people lose jobs over it. You're going to see Valve maybe make stricter coaching rules over this. And now I also look at you like you cheated. Like that's not a good thing, right? Like all these coaches and teams, not just coaches and teams, like next time you make a big fuss about something, this is going to get thrown in your face until this like era of CS is like changed or moved on. But like that will leave more of a lasting impression on the game.
I think where it's done with me is like it definitely has. Like you see some of these teams or some of these events, and you're like, all right, like I don't know if I'm as. It's still like the finals and everything are still super exciting, but yeah, it has kind of like in the back of my mind, no matter how much I don't want to think about it, it's like, okay, well, what is going on that I'm not aware of at the moment? And I know we had Craig on last episode, and he kind of gave his outsider's angle on it, and that kind of made me think too, like, to me, like, I understand you're not, what's the saying? You're not trying if you're not cheating. Is that right? You're not trying if you're not cheating?
Yeah, something like that.
That's the saying, right?
That sounds right.
It sounds
right.
But it also sounds wrong.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying.
Wrong.
You get what I'm saying. And I do agree with that statement. However, it also leaves a very bad taste in my mouth that this has apparently been a bug now for years. So you can't just say, oh, it's part of the online quote unquote era. It's been around for years. Valve has been made aware of it. Now, Valve could have nipped this in the bud long ago had they been, guys, we're aware of this coaching bug. Do not do it. If you do it, we will restart the round. Or if it happens, we'll restart the round. If you don't tell us, you're going to forfeit and there'll be punishment. That's when I'm like, okay, the onus is now on the team and the coaches. But the fact that Valve has known about it, hasn't made a ruling like that, I'm like, all right, well then, apart from an organization responsibility to be like, hey, you did cheat. It's like I'm torn, right? Like cheating is never okay, but at the same time, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And it's just like, I'm almost like split down the middle.
You said that backwards again.
Whatever. You get what I mean. I'm almost torn straight down the middle on how to feel about this. I know Valve made a statement. Did they mention anything about knowing this?
Yeah, they did. They acknowledged that. They said, it's unfortunate and frustrating that we did not respond to this bug sooner. Now, again, we think that
you didn't respond at all
for at least 2 years.
They didn't respond at all. The only reason they're responding now is because their hands have been forced.
There was a but with that statement, and it says, but bugs are the reality of software, and until they're resolved, we need to be able to trust the players and coaches. I have a huge problem with that because, although bugs are part of the reality of software, so are bug fixes. You identify a bug, you go in and you fix it. Like, we understand that things could happen. We understand that you would introduce a new gun into the game like the R8, and you have to deal with scaling and getting it just right. Like, it's not everything is going to be perfect, but we're talking about a game-breaking bug from a competitive standpoint in a multi-billion-dollar industry that you chose to ignore for so long. And so they acknowledged their mistake in not fixing it sooner, but they still put the blame on the players and coaches, which, look, blame is there. It's just there on both ends. Like, the players and coaches took advantage of a bug that they knew was cheating, so that's on them. But Valve kind of threw some fuel on the fire, right? Like, they weren't doing anything about it.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, I remember when, this was years ago, when Fnatic pixel walked, right, on Overpass. Right? It was on Overpass.
Yep.
Where that was the big thing of, oh, should they be punished for cheating? Or like the head glitch on Inferno, right?
That happened in a major.
Right. Where even though there was a gentleman agreements, people were still using it, even with gentleman agreements in place, saying, hey, the bug is still there, but don't do it, right? And it's like, even with Fnatic, they kind of got a pass from it, saying, hey, you did it once, right? You probably knew in your heart of hearts it wasn't right to do. You did it once. We're making the rule now. You cannot pixel walk. You cannot go into places that are not obviously intended to do, right?
And their punishment was to forfeit that game. So even they were punished, but that was a very different type of game-breaking bug. They found a way to cheat the system in that sense, right?
But still, I mean, just for, for the sake of it, a bug's a bug, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I have, like, this is where it's like I'm just not at peace with how this is being handled by either side of it, right? Because it's like at the same time, it's like I do feel for these coaches where they're like, we went to Valve, and some of these guys only did it for a round or two, or, it's like, I don't know. I'm torn. I really don't know where I fall into this. I think, of course, this is what I think. I think you do the obvious, right? You forfeit the matches and whatever points you earned from those games that you did it because you knew it was wrong. And then the org from that point handles it however they want it. If the org wants to let them go, you let them go, and that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's unfortunate that the coaches are taking majority of the blame because I think everybody knew. I think MIBR came out and tried to say, like, people were fighting for them on their end, saying like, "Oh, the players didn't know. The players didn't know," and it's like I think that's a load of crock. I think all the players knew, and they're all being
100%.
punished for it, right? Like right now, we don't know what firings are going to happen, so that could be an additional punishment. But in Valve's statement, they said that all teams that use this exploit during an RMR event or the Road to Rio, Road Masters event, whatever the series, to the major, will have their points reset, not just for that event, but altogether. Like you were out of the major essentially. Now we have to figure out how that's going to translate after the new news today, but that's a pretty big punishment to have for a lot of these teams that were definitely going to be in the especially with the expanded major the way it is. Like,
Yeah.
that's a money hit, and you were definitely going to be in that top 24 or whatever it was to qualify.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's like the first, I think, thing on the list. And these aren't in any particular orders on things that have happened with CS this year. But coaching cheating scandal is definitely high on that list of things that didn't go great. And now you have the rumored of the match fixing going on in the Mountain Dew League from these top players that have switched over to Valorant, which also muddies the water in that sense. Now, at the moment, these are all rumors, so we're not going to, sit here and break them down a whole lot, but the rumors seem pretty solid. It's just no names have been attached yet at this point. Officially. But it seems pretty, like, I don't think you throw around match fixing rumors.
Yeah.
And attach names. And of course, and then this is all one of those things. It's like, I guess we all know it's happening, right? We all know that there's some type of bug that people are keeping quiet about and coaches are doing it or players are taking advantage of things and all that. And we know that there's some match fixing going on. It's just, that's the nature of the beast, right? It happens in traditional sports, right? Lower tier boxing or MMA fighting. Promise you, match fixing's going on then, right? It's all politics, it's all whatever. But it's just, again, one of those ugly marks on Counter-Strike where we're like, okay, so we have cheating at the top level, match fixing on the tier 2 level. Like, what else could happen? And then in the early part of the year, we have pretty much what we see NA's Counter-Strike scene get depleted to move over to Valorant.
That's a big one because that's going to hurt the longevity or the future for the scene, right? We might not see it as a big hit right now because people are saying, "Oh, well, these guys are coming off of teams that were ranked outside of the top 20, top 30 in a lot of cases." Well, although that may be true, there's still a growth. I mean, this is kind of how it works. This is like the evolution of your esport is tier 3 players, hopefully get better and turn into tier 2, and they continue to advance their way into the big leagues at some point. The older players decline and the new breed comes in at some point. Like, it's just the way it works in any sport. And so when you start losing or having a max exodus of people in your lower scenes, that's eventually going to catch up to you. You cannot be a baseball team and not have a farm system. Like there's only very few teams that can sit there and dish out $500 million payrolls. Like that's a very small group of teams that can do that. Majority of the teams need to have a farm system to either pull from or their own farm system that they're grooming. And so the players leaving again might not be huge today, and it's big for Valorant because now they're all the big name players, but it could hurt this scene later on. So that's a TBD, but I believe it'll catch up at some point, especially in NA.
And I think just to prove that we're not just being harsh on Counter-Strike, right? We were harsh on Overwatch with this same exact fact. And I'd probably say even harsher on Overwatch. But the Overwatch League and Overwatch community got a kick in the shorts quite a bit when Valorant came out, saying, oh, look at all your players leaving. It's going to kill your player base. Look at all your casters leaving. Overwatch is dead. Well, it almost distracted us from the side that not as large of a scale, but for Counter-Strike, in my opinion, we kind of saw that happen a little bit with CS too. Like you said, we already talked about it, but the players leaving. We've kind of seen, though, in the last 2 years, the casting pool also kind of get depleted a little bit. Not nearly as much as the Overwatch League, but it's also a little different scenario.
You're seeing these parallels, right, between the two.
Yeah.
Now, we can't do a state of Overwatch because that would be an incredibly negative show. Like, if we did a state of Overwatch right now,
it would be short.
It would be a very different tone to how we're delivering that message and where we believe the future of Overwatch is. That's a very different story. Counter-Strike has a lot of these same problems, but they're big enough to like work their way around it and still be the most relevant game out there. That's not the question here. It's the fact that we see these things, the casters leaving, that's more of an effect today. I believe there's enough talent out there to make you kind of forget about that in the long term versus the opposite of the player leaving situation. But that's going to hurt today. Like losing Sadakist and Henry G. I know Sadakist has been out for a little while, but Henry G more recently, obviously. That was the number one casting combo for like 5 years. And what was it? I mean, not 5 years necessarily, but a long time, a couple of years. These guys dominated the casting scene. They were the main event at every major if it was not a face it major or something where they couldn't dictate who was in that role, but those guys were the top two. And then you throw Moses into the equation, kind of NA's Captain America in that sense, right? Like he was the polarizing figure that NA fans could relate to, and you always had them kind of like he was the one spurring them on and cheering on NA. Like you kind of just lose these little elements that helped your overall enjoyment for the Counter-Strike experience, right? It's not just a game that's an experience. If you have good commentators, that makes the world of a difference. And so that's just another hit, but I believe more of a short-term effect for CS because I do think there's a lot of talented, casters, play-by-play guys.
What I think this speaks more to is the problem, and this is probably not even just exclusive to Counter-Strike, but just esports in general, is we have a lot of high-tier talented individuals, but we don't know how to hang on to them or treat them like they're worth, right? Like for even Henry G even said in his statement, and I'm sure you could almost say all of them have the same story, where Henry G was top of the level. I mean, there was very few, if any, above him. And yet he still had to work almost every single event, take less money than what he normally would, just to work, just to keep food on the table. He had to work like he wasn't the number one. And I think ultimately what comes down to it, and I think Sadakist, Moses, and I'll even say like Pansy at some level, even though she wasn't as high tier, but she still put up with enough shit from the scene to where she left Counter-Strike, is like you just have to know your worth. And at some point, these tournament organizers, if they want to keep the talent, right? Now, I understand from a business angle where why would I pay Henry G 100,000 or whatever, throwing out a number, when I could pay this guy 10,000 and he doesn't do as good a job, but he does a good enough job to where that doesn't matter.
Yeah,
And you can't,
that's the tricky part,
and
right?
that
And
won't
then-
always be the case, because in traditional sports we have that. We have play-by-play guys like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman making millions of dollars to do their craft, because Fox finds it so important to have these storytellers in the booth to represent the product. In esports,
and they're
we're
like
not
kind of
there
signed
yet.
on with like ESL and all that way a little bit, right? But the problem is those long-term seasons are not really a thing. You have a bunch of one-off events, and
Right.
the way you weight these events changes from year to year. Like what event means more in some cases because of major implications and things of that sort. So yeah, I mean, again, at the end of the day, it's going to hurt, like losing these people. For whatever reason, they couldn't figure it out and make it work out and make it more of an appealing job for them long term. But again, I do think we can live with those changes over time. Like I said, I feel like there's a lot of talent there, but it still
'cause,
sucks to lose them.
realistically, and this sounds terrible, they are replaceable, right? Like talent like that, although it sucks to see them go. I'm always going to use him as an example, but like Joe Buck wasn't the first play-by-play guy, right? You had Vince Scully, you've had guys before him that were on equal level to how people view him now.
Just like players, talent is even more so
right.
replaceable.
I
in
just
sense,
think
right? Like the game goes on.
The
in that
scarier thing is why they're saying they're leaving, right? It's
Yeah.
not the fact that it's like, hey guys, I'm just, I'm ready for a new way of life. I've been doing this for 5 years, done over 160 events. I'm ready to settle down. I don't want to travel as much. I'm just ready for something consistent.
For some of them, it was a choice to make that change, right? Like none of these guys that we're talking about were really forced into leaving that position. They wanted a new challenge, and they've kind of earned that right in that sense,
Yeah.
right? There's enough hungry people out there that are going to want to travel 250 out of the 360 days a year.
Yeah.
It's
It's just a shame though that you have to even do that though.
yeah.
Like, it's just, and that's, I think that again, that's not a Counter-Strike issue. I think that's an esports industry issue where we constantly are told and shoved down our throats that this is $1 billion industry and, oh man, you better get into esports now because there's so much money involved. And yet it just seems like it is so focused in certain areas and not others.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when I take away from like when Henry G walks away from casting or any of these guys, they're just like, it's just at the end of the day not worth it after 5 years, and you realize this shit ain't getting any better for casting.
And I would say that Henry G and Moses are in what I would consider a better place today.
Yeah, well, 100%. 100%.
Like I would like their current job a lot more than I would like their previous one.
Yeah. Yep. I do agree. The other thing that just broke out today, which, it's again, a lot of this isn't CS's fault, right? But the major was canceled. It's been officially announced today that the Rio major has been officially canceled. And again, we kind of knew this was coming. We've talked about it on the show that we'd be very surprised. Brazil is still in a bad spot with COVID, from what I've seen.
I think we knew a long time ago that the LAN would be canceled. I think this was more waiting to see if are we going to make any sort of online major happen this year and figure out a way to either move it to another site or just have it split between region. Like, was there a way to have some sort of all-encompassing event to kind of either start or finish off your season, however you look at it for CS? But yeah, to hear it's canceled, I mean, not a huge surprise. Again, I still had some hope that they could figure out an NAEU type major situation. But
the only way you truly could make the major online is you would have to host like an NA major, an EU major, Oceanic Asian major. And like for the NA, don't pull an ESL Cologne where you have 8 teams there, right? You invite, anyone
every
with a
Orgless
pulse.
team.
Yeah, like if you have a North American connection and you are in the top 100, right, for HLTV or whatever, you are invited to do this tournament. And we're just
Make
gonna
it like a college basketball style.
exactly, and that's what they would have to do. And same thing for the EU side, right? Now, well,
EU would have enough.
It's enough, right? That's not a concern. You can get a good tournament out of that. But that's what I would do if you were.
I would have liked to have seen something, honestly, just to like.
It's a little depressing.
It's like out of the books completely. It's just done. That sucks.
It does seem a little odd to have a year with absolutely no major when it seems like every other tournament organizer and things like that are finding ways to have, like, we still have majors in Rainbow Six. You know, we're somehow, I don't know how, League of Legends is having Worlds. Maybe they figured out something we don't know. I don't know. But that's still going. It does seem weird just for Valve to pull the plug on the major.
With the international being canceled, though, I don't know how much of a surprise it is. If they're willing to cancel the international and, I guess, postpone it indefinitely.
Right. Yeah, same company in that sense. So,
like, Dota's their baby, right? So if they're going to push back Dota, you knew Counter-Strike was probably going to get the Odell Beckham end of the stick.
One of the last things, as far as just being kind of like a, okay, on the list, is this was out, a couple months ago. Already made a joke that the Players Association did their own rankings. And they're like, we're going to have our official rankings. We don't like
player and team run rankings.
Yeah, player and team ran rankings, which we've come to find out are pretty heavily influenced by like only a handful of teams and players. Like this wasn't unanimous across the board that this was a good idea.
They saw that they had MIBR ranked number 8 in the world, and in their most recent rankings, they were like, you know what? This is going to be a bad look for us. Let's postpone it. Let's see if we get better next month, and then we'll come out with another ranking system.
So
like we don't want to drop MIBR out of the top 10.
Apart from their original release, then, this was supposed to be the first month after announcing it, and they've already said, you know what? Let's take a step back. This isn't working out. Let's take a step back and try to improve our methodology.
Or cancel it, ideally. Like, just scratch the idea altogether. We don't need your ranking system. No one's paying attention to it. It's become a joke. Like,
I can improve your methodology. Don't do it. Like, no one is going to take your player-voted ranking system serious.
No.
Like, it's just...
I mean, not at all.
It's not going to happen. It will never happen. So there's that. Now, the one shining light that is carrying me through all this darkness with CS. Cloud9 is back, baby. Cloud9 is instantly a top 5 org in the world in Counter-Strike, I would say, after they announced that they're hiring Henry G as their GM.
Let's see what they do.
Top 3?
Let's
top 3
see
maybe?
What they do. I'm glad this has you excited.
First off,
I need you to be
not what I was expecting. In Discord, we were talking about it with listeners, and I was like, because Henry teased, he was like, hey, I'm stepping away from casting, but just wait for my next announcement. I thought he was going to announce like community lead for CS with Valve or something, something along those lines. I was not expecting GM of Cloud9 for CS.
No, I mean, yeah, definitely. So it's funny. Somebody made a joke about it, and he had commented on it before the announcement of like, oh, you're going to be running Cloud9 or something. Maybe he said a different team, but yeah, I mean, it came as a surprise. I mean, it's cool. Still got to wait and see what you're going to do. Like, there's so much. You have a whole roster to fill. It does help with the major being canceled. It's going to open up options because people are generally stuck to a team until the major happens just due to point situations and how all that works. Like, buyouts will be higher. So this does open up the possibility of getting players sooner than anticipated. A lot of work ahead of you, though.
A lot
of work. You got to find 5.
But I do like. First off, I love the fact that they just booted the entire roster. You let him come in with a clean slate and let him do his thing. Because we have said since the major, Cloud9, and I don't care what anyone says, Cloud9, since they've won the Boston Major, have not given 2 Fs about their CS roster. They've had a lot going on. I'll admit, they've won a world championship in Overwatch. They've won a world champion in Rocket League. They've had like one of the more historical runs in League of Legends. I get it. They've had a lot going on, but they haven't given two Fs in the wind about their CS roster since winning the Boston Major. This is the first time as a Cloud9 fanboy that I feel like, I don't know if they listen to the show, probably, because for all the shit we've given them over the years and how they handle their CS side, this is the first time since the Boston Major where I feel like they're taking a step in the right direction to actually improve.
That they did. They took a step in the right direction, right? Like, you had to let go of this roster and you had to find somebody that you believe in to lead into the next iteration of whatever we have. I'm just not sure how they do it. Like, if they're trying to stay NA,
I'm not worried about that right now.
If you're trying to stay NA, Tim, tell me how you do it. Are you going to be okay if Cloud9's not NA?
Has the ink dried on Nitro's contract yet?
Pretty sure he's gone.
Could you convince
really,
Drone to come back?
If they're an international roster with one NA player, are you okay with that? Or if there's no NA players, are you okay with that?
Listen, man. I've spent the last, year watching ATK play under a false Cloud9 banner. I might even take a Brazilian squad at this point if they're going to win.
MIBR?
If they're going to win.
Oh, if they're
I
going to
said
win.
if they're going to win.
That was a big kick.
Yeah. MIBR is
Furia.
not. No. They're not going to win. Maybe Furia. We'll take Furia. And he even tweeted out again, these sons of bitches in esports, I can't trust anything they say on Twitter. No one in esports, it's like all one big troll, because it's like, he's like, hey, what are the best UK players right now in Counter-Strike? Because obviously he's UK. And so he's like, obviously tongue in cheek. But then Alex announces that he's officially off of
Vitality.
And I'm like, well, shit. Which I don't hate that signing. I just think, look, I think Henry G is the type of guy where he's not going to be okay with top 20, right? I think his expectations is that he can pull enough strings. I think, thankfully, a lot of players respect him enough to where they would move to Cloud9. And the fact that he is starting fresh, all he needs is that one player to sign first and then say, we're going to build around you. Now,
if you
again,
get Alex, say goodbye to your NA roster.
I'm not going to compare him to anyone else. Like, I'm not going to say, well, how are they going to get that one player to sign to build around? Don't care. All I know is it's a clean slate.
I think this is the closest team you could say that I see more of a realistic shot of becoming like, is like in the sense of a complexity, right? Complexity did not stay NA. They went out and found talent across the board and was just like, we're going to put a squad together. Doesn't matter where they're from. If Cloud9's willing to do that, I could see them being back a lot faster. If they're really trying to stay more NA focused, I just don't see how it's possible. I
don't
really,
think so.
really don't. If you're trying to stay as an NA squad, I don't know what you do out there to make yourself compete outside of the top two. Like, out of the top two, sure.
Yeah, I mean,
but
unless
that
there's
doesn't
like
put you in great
more,
company.
yeah, unless there's just more people looking to shuffle around, right? In top tier, like unless Rush.
Alex going to FaZe to me makes like a lot of sense.
Yeah. And like I
Like,
said,
they
I
could
doubt
use a
Alex
true
does go to
leader.
Cloud9. I don't know what Henry G is going to do. I truly, I don't see any scenario that truly puts Cloud9 back into top 10 anytime soon. But all I need is for that engine to start, baby. You get that engine to start, you get me in the race, and eventually we will find our way back on the podium. That's all I need. Just let the engine start. And Henry G is the key to my ignition.
Maybe Hastro knew something, and maybe the G2 squad is making that move to Cloud9, not Envy.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? I guess the possibilities are endless at this point. One cool thing, though, that he did say today in another interview is that he is going to, with the players' consent, make their signings, like the details, public. So like
Yeah.
salary and stuff, which is interesting because we've never really been able to discuss that. Like, oh, okay.
I'll see that when I believe it. I did like that. I hope they do that.
But with a player's consent, that's the key,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know if salaries are going to be an easy thing to get them to consent to.
I would just like, I know, it's just when it comes to like traditional sports, what's everything, you talk about budgets, you talk about salary caps, you talk about, okay, well, this team is operating on a $2 million a month budget. This team's operating on a $300,000 a month budget. Like, then that way you can equally compare how close you are.
It would be great. I would love to know that information. Like, absolutely love to know what.
As a talk show, that is priceless information.
Yeah. Look, you know where to apply pressure then.
Yeah.
Right? That puts a lot more pressure on the people that are making a lot more. Like, I would really love to see the heat that would come along with that. It would be cool. Like you said, it would be great for our talk show type situation. Like, it would be a lot of fun to discuss.
Yeah. So there it is. There is the CS wellness check. The appointment is done. The blood work is back. What are the results, Anuj?
Yeah, Tim, we have like a irregular heartbeat. Like, you're going to be fine long term. It's something we got to monitor. You have to be cautious of it. If you make the wrong steps, it could get worse potentially if we don't give you the right medication.
Deep breaths.
But there's a reason to have some concern. And that's what it is. Like, there's a reason we're talking about it. There's a reason it's worth a segment on the show to discuss it, because we have a little concern. And so we're concerned. We care. We're concerned parents, okay? We care. We want it to do well, but we want to address the issues and see how, we can get past them. Some of them will take longer than others. Like, that's for sure. Some of these issues will be longer lasting than others, but ultimately, thankfully, the game is one of the best there is. Like, it's hard to do something when the game is that damn good, right? And so that's always going to be a plus for Counter-Strike, as it's got at its core one of the best games out there. Don't F it up.
And I think, if anything, this has proven that CS was made for LANs.
Yeah, for sure.
It truly, like, this game needs COVID and the world to get back to normal. More than anything, we need to get back to LANs.
Yeah.
100%. That
solves a lot of the problems.
That's my prescription to Counter-Strike. Get some rest, sleep it off, and you get back to LANs as soon as possible. All right, so we did have the Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which I'm going to make the official. This is the official podcast of esports, so I'm going to make an official statement. We're just going to call it Cold War.
Yeah.
Because I am not going to say Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War every time.
No, Cold War works.
All right, so we had the first impressions of it today. I should say of multiplayer. So the multiplayer videos have been released. People on Twitch have been playing around on different game modes and things like that. This is still what I would consider alpha at this point. But already, I say it every time. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna get hyped about Call of Duty. It's always the same shitty game every single year. And by the end, I end up hating it and hating myself for buying it. But every time these multiplayer trailers drop, I find myself again going to pre-order it.
I pre-ordered today.
I did too.
I did. I'm not even going to lie about it. No, dude, it was a good reveal. It's not often that I really come out of reveals for any game that's like come out. Like, sometimes you see some stuff that's like jazzy, right? Like a little out there, but it's more CGI type effects, like not necessarily the gameplay. The gameplay to me looked really impressive, and I love that we saw a lot of it, right? Not just from the developers, but then all of a sudden all the streams went live with all the content creators, getting a chance to play and show off the game. And so it gave you a good perspective, right?
They showed in their multiplayer trailer more maps than Valorant have 4 months after being released.
Well, yeah, there's gonna always be a ton of maps for Call of Duty, though. That's kind of how it works. But yeah, there's like 10 maps that are something that they
Right.
showed 5, but there's like 10 maps on multiplayer. Again, Tim, to me, this goes back to a more traditional style of COD. Obviously the 4v4, but I'm just talking about in the way that the game and the guns kind of controlled, like looked a lot more traditional to me. I love that sniping looks like it's back. To me, sniping has been really lackluster in Modern Warfare, and to me, in Cold War, it looks like it's back to the old traditional.
Quick, and for people who don't know, with Call of Duty, that means quick run and gun sniping.
Yeah,
Like flick shots. Edge of your seat, you jump up and shout type of sniping.
you can make plays with the sniper, right?
Yeah.
It's really, I feel like, a lot harder to do that in Modern Warfare. You just don't see it. You see it very occasionally, depending on the map and the circumstance. But to me, it looked really good. I thought the way the game visually looked incredibly appealing. I thought the way the guns handled looked good. I know they've already talked about slide canceling and how they're going to be fixing that a little bit from some of the bugs that are showing off. So I thought that was a positive.
I have
to see that
a few things there. So visually, I did love the look of it. I will comment to the people I see on Twitter saying, "Oh, this looks like Battlefield." I don't know what you want it to necessarily like. It's a modern-ish shooter on a bigger, larger scale maps for some of these like 12v12 game modes and stuff. Like, of course, it's gonna look like Battlefield because that's exactly what Battlefield is. I don't.
Well, and doesn't it make sense for them to find a way to take some of that market share by making maps that are appealing?
And that's
to
what
people that
I
want a
don't
bigger
understand.
game
Like,
mode?
what? It's still Call of Duty. Like, they're gonna have. I don't understand when people are like, "This looks like Battlefield." I mean, they
Don't play those. Opt out of those game modes.
like they're FPS games on larger maps. No shit. Like, what do you mean it looks like
Everything looks like Battlefield then.
Come on. You're very
I
specific here.
loved the big map looks that they showed off, like with the vehicles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, it looked really freaking cool.
That looked
like,
badass. I did love the fact that we have had more communication from developers on the day one of multiplayer reveal on issues brought up by the pros. I love the fact that the developers have more interaction and action on Twitter than we did an entire year's worth of Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare, the issue with Modern Warfare that rubbed me the wrong way is I felt like as a consumer, as a fan of the league and everything, and this is more on the developer side, is I felt like they were like, why are you guys complaining? You should be happy that we made this game for you, right? Like, why are you complaining? We did it this way. Deal with it. Where like already they're like, guys, we hear you. We've actually already fixed this on a future release.
yeah. No, it's been great. You're right. You're absolutely right. Like, the communication from the dev team already has been just what you would want to see, kind of almost what you should expect, right? As a fan of these games, is like the developer to take your feedback, hopefully the constructive feedback, and make positive changes to the game. And they're communicating that, they're doing that. So that's obviously going to be a big part of this. Like, I loved seeing so many pros involved in the alpha gameplay today, not just content creators, right?
Right.
But we saw a lot of pros playing in the game, which was awesome. One thing that stood out to me, Tim, the color palette of the game was like really vivid and bright, and it wasn't so grayed out like we've kind of had with this Call of Duty, where visually everything kind of has that grayish tone across the board. Like, the colors really caught my eye just visually looking at it. Like, people really stood out. That's been one of the biggest complaints for camping in this type of game. Like, the visual appeal from not just like, hey, they did a cool job of designing the maps, and it looks futuristic in that sense, but like the color palette was really nice too. That sounds so weird to say, but I thought it was really good.
Yep. One thing that I will absolutely love, and this is not from an esports level, because I think this is more of a casual map. The ship map, the boat. You know what you want to talk about with like the battle cruisers?
Yep.
Oh my god, this
Looked
is
awesome.
This is already going to be better than Modern Warfare just for this level alone. First off, I don't know if you know this about me, Anuj. I'm a sucker for battleship maps in any game. Rainbow Six has a battleship map. Instantly
World
better.
War II had that one battleship
War
map
II,
that was really good.
Battleship map. Awesome. You got to fight on ships in Battlefield. Awesome. This country was built on boats. First by our ancestors with the London Royal Navy. Almost said Ravens, but I didn't. The Navy in London. Transitioned to the Mayflower coming over to form this great land. Japan bombed our ships. You know what we did? We said not to our ships. We dropped a nuke on them. This country was founded and ran by ships. If you have a ship map, you are instantly a better game for it. And I'm going to play that map.
Look, as
once a
long
day
as
of my life.
the maps would have a really tough time being worse than what we saw with Modern Warfare. But yeah, the ship map looked badass. I thought Miami looked badass. Like that looked like a really cool map. That Russian map that they showed off. Like, look, like I said, I'm already impressed with a lot of things. There is an esports part of this that I'm excited about too. Did you notice the running animations when they did the third person running around? They took note of what looked really shitty every time they went third person, and it almost looked like people were just sliding across the
I don't even
screen.
know what that whatever that running animation was from Modern Warfare.
It's like Infinity Ward didn't know that they were ever going to go third person in the game.
Yeah.
Like they just didn't realize, like, oh shit, they're going third person. Like we should have made this part look good. But yeah, I thought the running animations looked good. The gunplay looked good. The speed looked good. Like I'm finding. I found myself pretty excited watching it, as you can tell. Like I enjoyed it. I thought I was hoping for a game like this to be the next one, right? Like Black Ops 4 was a good game. I thought the pacing of that game and the esports side was a lot of fun to watch. We got some information on kill streaks and how all of that stuff works. Like what we're hearing so far.
Old Radar is back. Little things like that.
Control is back, which means hopefully they replace domination in the map pool for esports. Like they've brought some other game modes back that, that weren't there before, including like VIP and stuff like that. But there's some other game modes that are in play that, make me feel like this could be just a better overall esports experience this year for us. And this year wasn't bad, but I do think this has the potential to be like a lot better from a viewership standpoint.
Yeah, I think across the board, from the maps, from the fact that they're interacting more with the pros. I mean, shit. Do you remember in Modern Warfare when they did the play test, they didn't invite a single actual professional player? It was all Twitch streamers and influencers to test out the game. And they're like, yeah, this is great. I'd play this. And then none of them touched the game until Warzone came out. Like, that's where Modern Warfare just tells you, like, their mindset. This is a completely different mindset on how to go about the business. So I'm super excited for Cold War. I will take it to my, hey, we're not always right on this podcast, Niche. Hand up, we've made mistakes. You and I both at one point in our lives have said, man, I wish cross platforms were on games so we could play with our friends on PlayStation. That's on us. That's on us. Because that did not turn out to be the case. Now, there is cross-platform on this at launch, which I guess will be cool for the occasional times that I want to play with my PlayStation buddies. But I think I'm gonna opt out of cross-platform when I can.
Yeah, I have too many friends that play COD on console. So,
but if it's just you and me, I'll play PC. I'll play PC lobbies.
If it's just like you and me, that's like a different scenario. But
I don't need that aim assist in my life.
I don't dislike crossplay. I dislike the way that they've implemented it. I love the idea of crossplay. It's something I've always wanted to be able to do. I hate how the aim assist part has kind of transitioned over, and it's just there's different quirks to it that are not perfect. So we'll see how they handle it. But it does make it a healthier player base, especially when Warzone, their version of Warzone comes out.
And for those, we don't know all the details of it. We'll have to look it up. But there is some type of transition from Progress to Warzone, which is nice because, and that's one thing that we've always talked about. It's like Warzone is too big to not carry over. Like all the progression, all the skins, the weapons, everything that people have spent money on if you just flipped a switch and went to a brand new game and started fresh, I think you would see a dip in the player base just out of like insult alone. But there is some type of transition. I just don't know.
Like
the
people
details.
will move over to this one is the good thing.
Yeah.
Right. Especially when any of it transitions over, it's made by the same developer, Revin Software or whatever.
And
so
free to play, I believe, is what I read.
People will move over, so that's also a good thing.
Shouldn't be an issue if you're a Warzone fan. That shouldn't be an issue for you. All right. So overall, very excited. It was good enough to get both of us to pre-order it, which I mean, we knew that was going to happen.
Hard.
We knew
Not that hard.
Yeah, we knew that was going to happen. But I am excited. I'm excited for Cold War. Ask me like 2 weeks after Cold War, and we'll see. We'll see. But so far, I pre-ordered it the second I saw the developer guy tweet about, hey, we listened, we heard about it, we've already fixed it. Like that's when I was like, that's my guy. Take my money. We're good. You have it. You have my commitment, sir. So I'm looking forward to it. I think beta starts in like a month, so 28 days, I think. So
you're on PC October 15th.
Okay, so there you go. So that's,
if you're on PS5 or PS4 or whatever, I think it's like October 8th, the week before.
All right, so there you have it. So we'll obviously keep an eye on Cold War as that develops and everything there. But for now, let's get into some e-news. A little bit on the CS side. Guardian has mentioned that he is ready to come back to play
under the Cloud9 banner.
Maybe.
You'd take him. You'd take him.
I would take him. Almost like how the Lions signed Adrian Peterson, though. Like, I'm excited. I like the name. I don't know how much of an impact. I love Guardian. It's very hard to knock him. He's in our Hall of Fame, right? He made our Hall of Fame, did he? Or at least a nominee for sure. I just don't know how much he has left in the tank.
That's the question, right?
Don't know. Already talked that Alex has confirmed that he is off the Vitality roster, so we'll see where he's end up going. Guardian and Alex to Cloud9. This is just going to be the running bit.
Yep, the whole time. Anybody that's available.
Anybody. Cloud9's also been trolling on Twitter with Kiyoshima. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Everyone's talking that. Now that I wouldn't necessarily hate that much. I felt like he always gets the short end of the stick. DreamHack Masters have announced that they are moving online, so that will start November 30th through December 6th. Funny enough, there's also rumor that the IEM World event might be the first LAN for Counter-Strike since COVID has started. That's also in December, though. So how DreamHack Masters announced on the same day that they're going online as one tournament announced that they might be doing LAN? Don't know.
Don't know. No clue.
We'll figure that one out for us. In COD, a little roster update for you. This is just make it short. Everyone but Dallas has blown up. So I'll let you kind of
30 plus free agents. We got Paris
ridiculous.
and London, both the European teams dropped their full rosters. Florida has dropped a couple of players. We know Optic today signed Kenny, Slasher, and Draza. TJ is expected to be the fourth there, so they'll at least most likely retain 3 out of the 4. Seattle has officially dropped everybody but Octane, but they're rumored to be getting Pristini and Gunless. What else? I mean, shoot, we're seeing
the Twins are officially off of Chicago. That was rumored.
The Twins are off of Chicago, and the Twins are off of London.
Yeah.
Or Paris. Sorry,
London.
It's London. Yeah, London. So yeah, I mean, both the Twins are looking for jobs. Although we believe RCDs will be headed to FaZe. Who else? Dashi is most likely signing with Huntsman. I think that's a huge one, especially with the way we saw the snipers work in this launch trailer. That gets me really excited to see Dashi again. And in my mind, that makes Chicago one of the favorites, potentially going into next year, and something to keep an eye out for if they're able to, have Envoy at the same level and all of that. So a lot of moves still happening. The confirmed stuff is more who's released at this moment in time. We have a lot of people that are free agents. The league will look incredibly different next year. And so a topic for another day. But just know, like right now, a ton of free agents. We'll probably see a lot of signings come and take place in the next week here.
On other news here for FPS, Rainbow Six has announced that their major in November is being moved to online. And that's not a surprise, but we're starting to get to that part of the year where people need to make decisions for December and November and early parts of next year. So still looks like LANs are far, far from the future. And, the other cool thing here is that Rainbow Six has also announced their new esports revenue share program is expanding to 42 teams, which it was supposed to be 44, but they made that to 42, and committing to at least another 4 years. So it could always be longer. I guess it's 4 years to see how this works. But pretty much what it is, kind of revolutionary, I think, in the esports world, where between these teams, like any of the revenue being earned by their in-game items and things like that are being shared throughout those teams. So the smaller orgs will reap some benefit from this. Obviously, this will do incredible work to keep that ecosystem alive and what, is already a strong ecosystem in Rainbow Six. But I think this will just ultimately in the end help.
Yeah, and the ability to move up, so it's like a 3-tiered system, right?
Yeah.
So the higher level tier you are, the more you get, and you have the ability to move up. And so what more incentive than to be able to make more money as an organization? So awesome initiative. I love it. You love to see them helping take care of their own. Like that's important to the growth. And so, again, we always bring this up with Rainbow Six, but they continue to impress us when you kind of least expect it. So they're going to keep doing good things, man.
Valorant news. We have Blast making their entryway into the Valorant ecosystem as they announced their teams for their Ignition Invitational. A whopping...
Truly is an invitational.
A very exclusive invitational. Like Jeffrey Epstein Island type exclusive invitational. Not saying that these guys are there, but you know what I'm saying. G2, FPX, FunPlus Phoenix for those at home, Liquid, and NIP.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, a good 4, nothing wrong with the 4 that they have, but it doesn't feel like much of a tournament with 4 teams, but whatever. It'll still be fun. We're watching some good.
Call me when the finals start. It will be a cold day in hell before you get me like amped up for a 4-team invitational.
Give me a Liquid G2 final. I'll be watching.
I'm watching the finals of that, but it's like, bro, it's a 4-team invitational. We could put on a 4-team invitational. Come on, Blast. You could surely have gotten more. In other news, Colin Kaepernick has been added to the Madden free agency list, being rated an 81. Now, we talked about how Madden and esports side of those games have just become a joke. He is higher rated than half of the starting QBs in that game.
Is it that surprising, though, with some of the QB play you see in the bottom half of the league?
For a guy who hasn't played 4 years and in his last year did pretty god-awful, a little surprised.
Well, they couldn't bring him back as like a 56. That would look real shitty, wouldn't it? Like, here's Colin Kaepernick. Look, he can't throw. Like, that would be a problem.
He just shows up in a walker.
I think it is cool that they added him in. The rating, I don't really care that much about whatever it is, what it is. I don't know where he should be rated. He hasn't played in forever, but it is cool that they added him as a free agent. Like, that seems like the right thing to do. Like,
with everything going on, it absolutely does.
Yeah.
From a gaming, the rating is questionable, but maybe not. We'll see. Maybe he gets to play this year and he shows that we're all dumb. Doubt it, but we'll see. Xbox has announced, they had actually quite a big announcement. They announced their Xbox Series S for the dollar amount of $300 US. You can
way cheaper than I thought.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, well, might as well pick one up type of money. And then Xbox has also announced an Xbox All Access Pass. Now, this gets you everything. And I think this is huge in an industry that is already, like, people claim to be very accessible. For $25 a month, for 24 months, so, payment plan almost, you get everything. You get the Xbox S, you get access to the Game Pass, everything, which I think is just unbelievably awesome. Like we talked about before the show, you end up paying more money that way, but like, you know, over a course of 2 years, if you're a college kid or a family that might not have 300 just to drop at once, you are more than willing to pay $25 a month for that source of entertainment and end up paying more in the end.
If your average game is $60 over a 2-year span, you're basically buying 5 games with that extra money, right? Because it's $300 for the system, $600 for this pass over a 2-year period. Well, that extra $300 is the equivalent of 5 video games. Most people are probably more interested in playing, you know, if you could get your hands on 10 new games that come out over the year,
Yeah.
like you have the ability to do that. And so that is really cool. Like that's almost appealing enough to me, like to be like, maybe I should do that. Like that way I don't have to worry about buying games. Like a new game comes out and I can get on and try it for a week and not feel bad about not playing it again.
Yeah, I think that's super accessible, and I think it's gonna, you know, just another way that Microsoft, I feel like from old days past on how like that industry kind of thought was so close-minded, like they were so worried about like the console wars, and like Microsoft is like, you know what, we're putting our games on PC. You can play them on PC. You can have them on Xbox at the same time. Here's a, you know, it's like they've truly are just like, we just want everyone, as the more people that have our games, the better, right? We don't need to have exclusives. We don't need to do this. We just want people to have it.
For somebody like you and me, we're looking at it like we're already paying $5 a month for the Game Pass on PC.
Right.
Well, now for $20, you get the system plus all the ultimate
Yep.
content in that
Again,
sense.
if you're just, if you got kids and stuff, $300 could be a lot just to drop at once. It's, you know, we're not a spokesperson for it, so don't treat us
just
like
a cool
one.
idea.
I just
It's
thought
cool,
it was a
it's
neat
outside of the box thinking.
new
and that's
idea.
What makes it good. Yeah.
Outside of the Xbox thinking. It's a little dad joke for you. A little gamer dad joke for you. And last but not least, I always like to point these out when it happens, but Ukraine has officially acknowledged esports to be an official sport. So whatever that gets the people of Ukraine benefits of, great. I also saw that people in Korea are trying to get it to where esports athletes can put off their military, like their mandatory military, whatever they do over there.
Yeah.
So there's that. But also, it's, you know, it's always nice to see when countries kind of acknowledge esports being an official esports, because you think like it's just a pat on the back, but I think it really does make a difference when it comes to visas and taxes and things like that. It can definitely benefit them out in the long run.
And in those countries, I feel like it means more too, right? Like a lot more. It's not everything is just as acceptable everywhere. So to see people acknowledge it that way is pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know enough about Ukraine to make a funny joke there. I was about to, but I'm reeling that in. I already made a Jeffrey Epstein Island joke today.
Don't want to push it too far.
Let's reel in my Ukraine punchline humor here. So it's a good time just to end the show, if you ask me. And that will do it for this episode of The Center Ring. Episode 270, presented by Alt. Check them out. altesports.com, at Ultimate on Twitter. You can also check us out on Twitter at The Center Ring. We will be back Sunday night for another fun slate of esports talk. We'll talk about the massive 4-team invitational for Blast and what other else comes our way. Overwatch League playoffs will continue on. Sure, some roster. I think there's a roster deadline coming up here for COD, so maybe
14th, I think.
14th. All right, so that's the Monday after, so I'm sure some things will be rumored to the point where it's official at that point. So we'll have a lot to discuss. Sunday night, join us live on Twitch. Hit up our Discord and everything there. Again, at The Center Ring on Twitter. And that's all. That's all I got. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Love you. And we'll see you Sunday.